Hello, boys, and welcome to the Week 11 recap presented by Mark McCauley, your 2011 First Class champion. Now, we start the recap video rewinding all the way back to last week and taking a peek at the free agent auction bidding. Now, there weren't too many major acquisitions, aside from Mike spending $18 for Eric Ebron, while in need for a tight end for his injured Gronk. Now, Mike was also able to snag the Dolphins D for $6, while Jack was able to snare a solid plug-and-play receiver in Sterling Shepard for $6. Stanton was able to steal Damian Williams for $5 and Jalen Richard for $4, giving John his third and fourth running backs on his roster behind the bye-week players of Melvin Gordon and Matt Forte. Now, next we take a peek at the free agent auction summary. Now, Ann is already out of cash, while many others in the league are running very light, with Yanni dipping below 10, Jack hovering at 12, and Chris right at 16. Tom, John, Sean, and myself have all been relatively conservative and still have plenty of cash to dole out. An important thing to note is Mason only holds $41. Now, this is a vast departure from the auction draft strategy in which Mason, while only needing 3 more players to fill out his bench, had a whopping $100 left on that $200 budget. Now, Mason is showing a greater willingness to spend in free agency, possibly recognizing a weakness in his auction draft strategy. Now, next we take a look at the trades of the week, as Sean was extremely active. The first trade of the week was between Sean and Alex. Now, Sean really backed Alex into a corner here, as Sean knew that Alex needed to drop Chandler Catanzaro, possibly the biggest piece of shit kicker in the entire league. Sean was able to basically trade Jordan Reed for Odell Beckham, which is pretty much a steal. While Alex was in need of a tight end, there's no question that Sean was able to get the better end of the deal, as he tries to avoid taking the SATs and having to surpass the impressive 2,200 he got on the SATs the first time. The second trade of the week was between Jack and Sean, and Jack is in desperate need for a back, and he was able to deal Alshon Jeffrey, who just got suspended for taking PEDs and will be out until week 15, for James Starks. Now, it's tough to rip either side for this deal. Sean will be able to use Jeffrey in the Sacco Championship if need be in week 15, while Jack is able to gain a valuable piece to help him avoid the Sacco, even if that piece isn't a major difference maker. The next trade of the week is probably the trade of the week, actually, and that is Sean and Ant. And the monster combo of Lamar Miller and A.J. Green was dealt for Spencer Ware, Latavius Murray, and DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Ant, seemingly unsatisfied with his 7-3 record, which is currently tied for first place, has decided to throw in the towel and completely mix things up, going the depth route that has been patented by our very own Tommy Lawton. Ant has made a rash of surprising trades to dismantle the team that he had built. We can only wait and see if Ant is a mad scientist or just mad. Sean, in a surprising move, was able to turn his team from the sewer of the league into one of the stronger squads heading into the Sacco tournament, as his lineup boasting of AJ, Lamar, Odell, Rodgers, and Gurley is one of the more feared combos in the league. Now, with the trades and free agency out of the way, we check in on the standings heading into week 11. There's a 4-way tie atop first place amongst Dan, Chris, Ant, and myself. However, the most interesting part of the standings is the race for that ever so important 8th place and clinching of not being in the Sacco bracket. The Hancock currently holds that 8th spot down, but has the fewest points among all teams vying for the position, making his hold in the position ever so fragile. Yanni controls his own destiny, but it'd be difficult to make the playoffs without winning at least 2 of his next 3 games. Mike, Jack, and Alex are desperately fighting to climb to that 8th spot as well. While Jack holds the upper hand in the tiebreaker category, Alex commands a 1-game lead over both Mike and Jack heading into week 11 matchup versus Jack. Now, with the playoff standings out of the way, we shift our focus to the more pressing matters. We take a look at the point standings leaders. This is the first year in league history where any sort of importance has been placed on the points race, despite no monetary compensation being involved. Now, the first and most important thing to note is that currently in the coveted 2nd place, we have LaGordon Blue. One of the things to note about LaGordon Blue is that they are the only co-owned team in the league, and to my knowledge, it is the 4th in league history. As many of you know, John and Max maintain a 99% to 1% ownership split, respectively. They've also been one of the more outspoken teams in the league and has set the record for most smack talk in league history while being in 5th place and holding 0 rings. Another important thing to note is that currently my boys are averaging over 104 a game, and I am currently chasing the record of 1,400 points set by Jackie B last year, which is about 107 a game. Now we shift gears as we look into the Week 11 matchups. The first matchup is between Jack and Alex. While holding major 8th place implications, Jack was able to pull off the W here, 103 to 86. He was led with 23 from his Steelers D in a strong outing from his latest trade acquisition, James Starks. Good looks, Jackie B. And for Alex, TB12's 31 was not enough, as the rest of his team was average at best. Jack and Alex are now each at 4-7. Jack enters Week 12 with a must-win game against Yanni. If Yanni loses, his playoff chances are all but over, while Jack will be in a great position to secure a berth. With Alex gets a matchup with Ant. Ant's the early favorite in that matchup, but he might have a completely different squad next week since the deadline is almost upon us. So we'll have to check that out. Next matchup is Ant and Tom, and it was a real barn burner among these two, as they both currently possess team names that are about players that are currently not on their roster. Ant recently dropped the hardo Carson Wentz, while Tom has been employing the Ertz When I Pete team name without Ertz for seemingly the entire season now. Nice work, boys. Truly impressive stuff. Ant was able to pull off the W here and move to 8-3 behind Breeze and his whopping 18 points, while Tom takes the L and drops to 5-6, as his pet Darren Sproles was only able to muster 2 points. There are rumors that Tom may indeed drop Sproles and pick up another long-lost fantasy pet, John Kuhn. We'll have to wait until Thursday and see if Tom is able to outbid the rest of the league. Another thing to note here is that the 3 recent trade acquisitions of Ware, Murray, and Hopkins combined for 22 points. That is a whole 5 points more than Lamar Miller was able to get last night for Sean. In the next matchup, and probably the most important matchup of the week, Mike was able to take down the Yanster 107 to 102. Yanni was able to make a strong push with a late breakout performance from Robert Kelly, who put up over 30 points, as well as a surprisingly good performance from Frank Gore. Now, honestly, I thought Gore was retired, and then I took a peek at his stats. He's actually having a hell of a season. And this is I think it's his 12th straight season that the Yanitor has employed a 30-plus-year-old Frank Gore on his squad. So nice work, Yanni. Mike continues to be powered by Marcus Mariota, who's having a hell of a season as well. While a healthy Dez has certainly solidified Mike's squad, Yanni will need more production from his QB and Antonio Brown if he wants to make the playoffs and avoid the Sacco. So Mike moves to 4-7, just 1 game back of Yanni, who's at 5-6. Also, a thing to note is Mike really needs Gronk to get healthy, as his squad is looking a lot like a Tommy Lawton wet dream, as Mike has depths galore. A possible trade for a stud is a move that could move Mike from the jeopardy of being Sacco to increasing his ring lead and being the first ever owner to hold 3 rings. Next up for Mike is the D-Train. All right, so our next matchup is Chris versus Zach. Now, Chris was able to beat Zach in this one by 20, as Chris's squad impressively had no one on his entire team getting below 8 points. A real solid all-around performance from Chris. He has a real well-rounded squad with good players at every position. Meanwhile, Zach's Dak Prescott and his 29 points weren't enough, as Zach continues to be frustrated with Isaiah Crowell. He'll need better production out of his kicker and defense as well if he wants to pull out a W next week for Slugs. Chris moves to 8-3. Zach drops to 6-5. Next matchup is Dan versus Sean, as Sean was finally able to break that 9-game losing streak and move to 2-9 against Dan, who falls to 7-4. Despite AJ Green going down the second snap of the game and Ladarius Green failing to show up, Sean was able to still put up over 100 thanks to Aaron Rodgers' 33 points, as well as a standout effort by his defense. Dan, while posting a solid 91 points, needed more out of Kelvin Benjamin and the injured Ryan Matthews, whose health has driven owners crazy for years. Sean takes me on next week. This will be roughly our 12th matchup since I joined the league. It's up there for one of the more heated rivalries in league history. Sean owns a 1-0 lead this year, as I look to tie things up next week. The last matchup of the week was between myself and Slugs. Now, going into the game, I was a 41-point favorite, and my boys did not disappoint. Bell and DJ combined for 40 by halftime of the 1 o'clock games. So this one was over real soon, well before Procise and Gio were able to, die and ruin my hopes of having a viable flex for the rest of the year. Stanton had basically his whole team on bye, and he drops to 5-6. While I moved to 8-3 and remain atop the standings in the 135 to 80 win, as the Amari Cooper and Derek Carr combo did anything but disappoint last night in prime time. Slugs will need his boys to show up next week, as he won't have to toss out the C squad. Which leads us into our play of the week. Now, the play of the week is brought to you by DraftKings, where legends are made. Now, for those of you that watch Sunday Night Football, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking this is a picture of Robert Kelly. That would be false. He'd be a real deserving candidate, and the Yan made a great play there. Kelly had a great breakout performance against that whopper of a Packers D. However, the clear and obvious play of the week goes to Slugger, as he played Damian Williams at RB1 this week. Picked him up for $5 of free agency, and Williams rewarded him with 0 touches and a whopping 9 snaps on offense. You'd be hard-pressed to find another back in any starting lineups this season that has accomplished anything close to what Williams did this week. Truly impressive stuff, boys. Nice work. Now, next, we're going to take a peek at the standings heading into next week. So I'm still in first place, tied with Chris and Ant. The battle for 8th place continues to heat up, as there are 6 teams within 1 game of each other. Slugs, Tom, Yanni, Mike, Alex, and Jack all to secure those last 3 playoff berths. Sean, meanwhile, is sitting pretty, locking up that 12th seed. Nice work, Sean. The next slide is about the points leaders. Now, we'll notice that John is still locking down the 2nd spot, as he is hanging on by a thread with 4 teams within 30 total points. Meanwhile, I have all but secured the top spot in the points lead, as I'm up by over 100. And lastly, we're going to look at the Mark McCauley rest of season power ranks. So we're just going to delve right in. Please note the number of rings for each owner is presented in numerical form in the parentheses next to the owner, next to the team name. All right, so in Tier 1, we have myself and Swiss in the elite contender category. We have probably assembled the top 2 squads in the league up to this point. My squad gets a nod over Swiss due to the top heaviness of Bell, DJ, and Evans, averaging close to 60 a week, while Swiss definitely is a better flex at the moment. If someone else was doing the power ranks, he could easily have taken number 1 spot. Maybe next week for you, Swiss. So in Tier 2 now, we have the contenders. Now, in 3rd place, we have Sean, and in 4th, we have Mike. Sean is eliminated from playoff contention, but after 3 trades last week, his squad is looking more powerful than most, being led by the star power. While AJ Green's out for the year, it definitely hurts, but he still has Watkins and Alshon, who are coming back. So he should be able to replace AJ. So his squad's looking nice. Meanwhile, Mike is on the brink of being eliminated. He'll need some help to get in. He'll need a healthy Gronk and Dez and Jordy be more consistent. But his running back play of Booker and Hill should be enough to complement his stud receivers and his tight end. So that's why he's up here in the 4th spot. Now, in 5th place, we have Slugs. And Slugs is riding that RB combo of Gordon and Forte hard, as he has no other backs really on his roster. These backs put up numbers despite averaging under 4 yards a carry, and they get great volume and red zone looks, so they're very touchdown dependent. And a healthy Big Ben and Jimmy Graham gives John a dangerous squad with a great team name as well. So nice work there, John. In 6th place, we have the D-Train. And D-Train probably is the best back in the league in Elliott, although my boys DJ and Bell might have something to say about that. Regardless, Zeke's a stud who can burst out in any game no matter the opponent. Also, Russell Wilson's finally healthy. Looks like his old self. Expect him to put up massive numbers the rest of the season. So, yeah, I like Dan in the 6th spot. 7th place now, we got Ant. Now, listen, Ant might deserve to be in the 5th spot on this list, but to be honest, it's impossible to trust that he won't make yet another trade that jeopardizes his quest for his first ring, or make another trade to vault someone else way up in the standings. So Chris, so far, is the biggest beneficiary of that. So Ant will need to change his team name as well. That's also a factor in your ranking here. Come on. Now we enter the third tier, which is the playoff hopefuls. In eighth, we have Jake. And Yanni's a big Rashad Jennings and Frank Gore guy. Their volume could disappear at any moment since they're both trash. But they continue to put up numbers, so whatever with that. Antonio Brown has been a top 3 receiver this year, along with Evans and Julio, so he's truly a stud. And Delaney Walker and Robert Kelly are looking legit. So Yanni's actually put together a solid squad. If he makes the playoffs, he's no easy out. And, his team name's a little suspect, though. Now, in ninth, we have Jack. And Jack has had some bad injury luck with that huge injury to Procise, who looked like a stud. Rawls should thrive, though, so some injury luck there for you, Jack. As now Rawls is the only back in Seattle and should post some numbers like he did last year when he led the league in yards per carry. With Ingram out, now you have Hightower and Rawls, so they should both, really do some work for you. So Julio, Rawls, Diggs, and Luck. I mean, you got some good players there. That's why you got the 9th spot. In 10th, we have Mason, who will be without Adrian Peterson for the rest of the season, despite him still being on the roster. Having Lewis back should help, but we'll see how much he's integrated into the offense after missing the first 11 weeks. He continues to rely on Dak, who's been a solid fantasy QB, as well as Brandon Cooks, who's been very boom or bust, and the new fantasy star, Jay Ajayi. If Baldwin finds some consistency, he can make a run in the playoffs, although lack of tight end will really hurt him. Next up is the 4th and final tier. This is the garbage tier. Now, in 11th place, we have Tom, who, boys, has managed to do it again. Year after year, we say to ourselves, this is the year, Tom will figure it out. And year after year, we see Tom's squad that have a lot of depth of guys who put up like 4 or 5 a game. If not for the breakout of LeGarrette Blount, this would be the 12th place team for sure. Now Devonta and Blount and Cam Newton keep him out of 12th place for now. And in 12th, we have Goodell himself. Alex, he's got TB12, probably best fantasy QB in the league. His backs aren't horrible in Dougie and Theo, but where his team really showed his greatness is in the wide receiver core of Michael Thomas, Mike Wallace, and Golden Tate. Each guy's had some decent weeks, but they're not consistent and should not be relied upon. Alex will need a healthy Jordan Reed if he is to avoid the Sacco, which brings us to the Sacco favorites. Alex is the favorite at the moment. He's last in the power ranks. He's unlikely to make the playoffs, while Tom and Jake are the 2 most likely to jump down into the Sacco bracket, while Sean is guaranteed to be in. He is unlikely to lose unless he experiences some more bad luck. While Mike has had an outside chance of getting in and is in 6th place, he could leap up into the playoffs. Other things to note about the Sacco, in a shocking turn of events, Tom and Zach both only hold a single ring. Now, Zach seemingly was a 3-time defending champ before Tom soared into the league, determined to steal the crown as the Sacco king, as he's been a fixture in the Sacco power ranks for years. We'll see if we have our 8th Sacco champ or our first 2-time Sacco winner. I believe Tom is up next. Until next time, boys, I'll see you later.